there. Okay, you made it to the 4th video of Folk Horror Month. We're going to have one more, and that is going to be on Halloween evening. I will put that one out. That will be a music video. But today we're going to do a little rant, in case you didn't guess from the thumbnail. I did a rant last year, but I would say it went horribly. I had to re-record it like 3 times. Everything kept going wrong. I didn't get to do any of the fun little things I wanted to do with it. And so this year I'm going to try to have my ducks in a row a little bit better, I hope. Anyways, hello, welcome to Folk Horror Month. We are, of course, going to have a theme. Last year the theme was folk horror in general. I just talked a lot about the genre, what it is, what it means. I'll put a link to that video down below. And I also talked a lot about female agency in folk music, folk horror, because the four songs I chose all featured female characters with some type of agency, whether for the good or the bad. So definitely had some villains. This year our theme is ghosts, God, the sibilants, ghosts and love gone awry. So Love Gone Awry, of course, is going to feature in all 4 of the music videos this month. And 3 of the 4 music videos will have ghosts. However, we do have one that's a creature feature. And so instead of a ghost, we have a creature feature. But we definitely will have Love Gone Awry in all of the songs. Sometimes love goes awry in horrible ways. So be forewarned, and please always pay attention to the content warnings. I give them for a reason. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope if you enjoy this video, you'll like and subscribe. Please feel free to check out other videos before you decide, but I would love it if you smash that button and come back and see us again. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what you're going to see in this video. And then we're going to get right into it. I'm going to do a little voiceover that allows me to really go in depth about my thoughts on each and every video that I've done this month. And while that's happening, I'm going to be making a pumpkin pie from scratch for you on screen. So you have something to look at and enjoy while I'm chattering in your ear about folk horror music. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the first song, which was Long Black Veil. All right, voiceover Myra, be my guest.
Okay, switching mics. This song, Long Black Veil, it's an old favorite. I remember hearing it at my friend's house first in grade school. Her dad was a massive fan of Johnny Cash. 9 times out of 10, his albums were playing when her father was home. As I got older and realized just how many artists have covered the song, I started thinking about it in terms of its place in country and folk music. Most remarkable was the era of country music it belongs to. It was first sung by Lefty Frizzell for Universal in 1959. When you listen to his contemporaries, there's a lot of tears and beer and lovers leaving and or mistreating each other, nostalgia. But songs sung by a ghost are a lot thinner on the ground. Now, folk music has a long history of ghosts and death by love gone wrong, which places this song firmly in the folk music category of a murder ballad. It starts out with a murder. Still, it remains special in that the murder is not the subject of the song. The subject of the song are the circumstances of the aftermath of the murder. The song's narrator is dead because they were hung for the murder, but they didn't commit the murder. The truth was, our dead singer was in a tryst with their best friend's wife at the time of the killing, and they couldn't admit it. And since townspeople said the killer looked like our narrator, they were convicted and hanged for the murder. So the story goes, the errant wife mourns our narrator, walking the hills at night when nobody knows, crying for her lost love, sporting a long black veil. The truth dies with our singer. This is normally a male point of view song, but there are exceptions, such as Joan Baez. And I really enjoy the added depth the song takes on with a woman singing the song. Thinking about the era, a woman sleeping with her best friend's wife in the 60s takes on a whole different gravity. And we know this was happening. We know that people have been queer since history started. So I think it is actually a little more representative and interesting to think about people who face this particular predicament of hidden love. Okay, so when you think about two women stepping outside the bonds of marriage in the 50s or 60s, the weight of that secret would create massive social ripples in their community. Now, hanging in folk music, folk horror, it's a frequent method of death. I looked into it, and hanging was still used as a death penalty method of execution here in the States up until the 60s, although by the 40s it was pretty rare. In 1972, the death penalty was temporarily suspended as unconstitutional, but was reinstated in 1976, and I would say we've been grappling with it ever since. There is something visceral about a hanging. In folk songs, going all the way back to the Middle Ages, they've used hanging imagery to create gruesome and sympathetic song content. Of course, here in the States, hanging is burdened with layers and layers of political and social strife. And the use of a hanging in a song written in 1959 was probably purposeful to maximize the listener's sympathy and discomfort. Folk music is nothing if not dramatic, and folk horror is peak awful when it comes to playing on societal stressors. So I think when you look at this in the context of its era, it actually has a lot to say, and I think that it's kind of important to hallmark these particular types of songs, not just because they're a little creepy and special, but because they're actually talking about things in a more modern context that we've been talking about for hundreds of years, and yet somehow these things are still topical. So I was originally planning a different song for the first week of this year's Folk Horror Month videos, but I couldn't get this song out of my head, and my brain kept shuffling it forward in my endless head radio. So I finally decided it was trying to tell me something. And once I'd settled on my theme, this one moved right to the front of the line. Love Gone Awry and No Happily Ever After, plus a ghost, and it's a cute little tune. Yep, good choice. All right, back to other Myra.
Oh, you're back. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what you've been seeing on screen. How about some pie crust tips? So pie crust is one of those things I think that's always better homemade rather than store-bought. 100%. It's flaky, it's crisp, it's buttery. And so the key to that is cold fat. So pie crust tip number 1 is you want all of your fats and liquids to be ice cold when you make the pie crust. And that's because you don't want that fat breaking down in the dough. You want little globules of fat distributed evenly throughout the entire dough. And so a cold fat will do that much more effectively. And you don't want to add liquids that are warmer than the fat because they'll break down the fat. So you want ice cold water, ice cold vinegar, ice cold egg in this recipe specifically. So that's tip number 1. The second tip I have for you about pie crust is after you've rolled it out and you've put it in your pie crust, you've broken it, you've put it back together, you've fixed it all up, made it look pretty. And you have coated it with your egg wash to prevent the filling seeping into the pie crust. It creates a barrier, basically. That's why we do that. And then we put the egg wash and the sugar on the outside edge of the crust to make it pretty. So egg wash is handy, always use that. And pie crust tip number 3, I guess, is put that pie crust, once it's all rolled out and in the pie pan, put the whole pie pan with the crust in it into your fridge to cool, or into your freezer for like 20 minutes. But into your fridge to stay cold while you preheat your oven, make your fillings, all that. And that way, the pie crust is still nice and cold. The fat is still nice and cold when you fill it and pop it into the oven. That cold fat is going to do magic in the oven, and you will get flaky, layery, buttery crust every time. Okay, let's move on to video number 2. So voiceover Myra, she can take it away, and she can tell you all about our second video, which was Lizy One.
Okay, I'm going to remind you before we get into this one, content warning. This one actually is probably the worst one of the bunch this month. Oh yeah, oh dear, dust everywhere. She's got flour all over her sleeves. Oh, would you look at those fat globules all through the pie crust. Oh, distraction. Okay. Anyways, so Lizy One. I'm not sure why this song kept pushing itself into my brain pan. It was never on my radar before. But it was very insistent, and actually, when I decided to do this song, my theme for the year solidified because I wanted to write a ghostly chorus for it. And later, I was looking at my list of potential songs and suddenly saw a pattern emerging if I did add a ghostly refrain to Lizy One. Now, there is, some people say Lizzie, some people say Lizy, some people say Lucy. I went with Lizy only because you don't hear it as often, and I'm always looking for ways for things to be a little bit, just slightly my own take, without taking away from the song. And also because Liza, Elizabeth, those kind of things, those are Lizzie. They are all short forms of Elizabeth. So it's perfectly acceptable in its historical context as well. So I went with Lizy One. So as we know from last year's theme, folk horror just generally, and a lot on female agency, you know I love a bit of female rage or trickery. And based on last year's song lineup, I think I made that clear. In part because it's rare that women get the upper hand in folk music. But it's not that rare. If you're looking for it, you'll find plenty of great stories about women as villains, creatures, tricksters, badasses, and heroines. So, you know, if you want to think about a villain, think about last year I did,
Well, darn.
What was the name of that song? Oh, it's like one of my favorite songs. Oh, Child Owlet. Okay, anyways. So, Child Owlet, excellent villain. Also a deeply Scottish, gothic, dramatic song that features incest. So, I'm not sure what's going on in Scotland, but yeah, Lizy One also Scottish roots. If you want to find creatures, you've got the Silky, both Irish and Scottish and Welsh cultures, they have Selkies and Kelpies. If you think about tricksters, we've got lovely Joan, who rides off with a knight's horse after he makes an indecent proposition to her. Badasses, all you have to do is look at last year's song Anathea that I did for Folk Horror Month. Anathea was an unbelievable badass. She just kept going in the face of adversity. She's a great heroine as well. You know, and you've got tricksters such as the one I recently did, which is Fair Maid on the Shore. She tricks all the sailors and maybe is a bit of a creature as well. You know, she's kind of got a siren thing going on. So these women exist in folk music, and I love finding their stories and telling them. In fact, the entire reason I sing folk music is because you're song telling. You're telling stories through songs. You know, I love it. And I especially love finding songs about women doing interesting things. Sometimes they're the villain, but a lot of times it's just really fun to find songs where women get the upper hand, because it is fairly rare. Now, this song was lacking in that, and I was feeling some kind of way about Lizzie being the anima of the song. You know, she's the inner self of the song. Without her story, the song doesn't exist. But the song itself, which is typical, this is typical, but the song itself actually tells more the story after her murder in that, second verse, of her brother and him trying to get away from the consequences of his actions. So yeah, I was feeling some kind of way about that. I always do. I always do when women are, betrayed, murdered, mistreated, and we talk about the victimizer of the woman rather than the woman herself. So, the point of view, I wanted to add a little shift to it. I wanted to give Lizzie a voice and maybe also a little vengeance story arc, giving impetus to the brother's decisions as he tries to lie his way out of his predicament and shame, and ultimately decides to drown himself in the sea. It takes on a different feeling if we actually have something nipping at his heels to encourage him to pay for his actions, whatever form that takes. In folk music, that's usually going to be death, especially in folklore. So because we're here in Folklore Month, I thought, let's give Lizzie a ghostly chorus and let's have her, basically warning him that she's on him. She's on his ass. So anyways, it is my opinion, though, that her brother is less concerned with what he did to Lizzie as he is with the shame of his actions, and the consequences he would face from his parents, society. So he opts to kill himself / disappear rather than face the music. Even his mother, who sees through his lies and gets him to confess. He tells her the initial lie about the greyhound. Okay, side note. So it's really common in old folk songs for people to blame blood on their person when somebody catches them with bloody hands or whatever. To blame it on the fact that they just slaughtered a pig or killed one of their hunting dogs because it wouldn't hunt, or, whatever, killed some animal, rather than the fact that they've actually just murdered somebody, because it would have been deemed something that was a part of life, right? And people might look away and not think much of it. So it's a common lie given in folk songs. You find it, just so many folk songs have this, I cut off my greyhound's head, or I just slaughtered a pig, to get out of the fact that they're bloody with a human being's blood. But his mother, she sees right through him, and there's actually a few different versions of this song. And some of them have 2 or 3 verses where she's questioning him a little more closely, like, no, that doesn't make sense. That's not your greyhound's blood, or, whatever. So his mother sees through his lies. She gets him to confess. But even her, she seems more concerned with how he'll deal with, that proverbial axe hanging over his head of judgment. When his father finds out, than she does over the fate of her dead daughter. So this pisses me off, and maybe that's why this song wouldn't leave me alone. So I created a refrain that chases our murderous brother with a haunting cry through the events of the song. Something I notice a lot with these types of songs, so the older form of bardic song, where it's verse on verse on verse on verse of story, because that's the way we used to listen to these stories. And there are some of these that have, 30 verses. So with these types of songs, when you're trying to bring them forward in time, right? Folks tend to get stuck doing this song the same way all the time. This one often has, really eerie, creepy music, a little dirge-like, and most folk artists tend to just sing it the same way, or at least keep it really dark. And oftentimes I find with these older songs, when people do them in a more modern setting, they still kind of adhere to the same format of verse on verse on verse, almost dirge like. And we actually lose the story a bit, I feel like. Also a lot of times you hear people put on voices. And I'm not in any way dissing any of these things. I love this song. And obviously, these are the ways that I heard this song initially. It's a really interesting story, and it's really dark. So, of course, it appeals to me. I like dark, weird stuff. But I want always, always, always for people to be able to understand the lyrics so that we can discern the story. And doing it in a way that is less maybe forward in time musically. What am I trying to say? I don't want people to click away immediately because it sounds exactly the same as 10 other versions. You might click away immediately because you don't like the musical style. That's fine. Everybody has their preferences. But I want people immediately to know that they're going to hear the story and maybe most importantly, understand the story. So that's what I wanted to do here. I wanted to also maximize the ghost factor in the backing vocals with, the descants and stuff. And I rarely get a chance to sing in the stratosphere, so that was fun. But anyways, it's debatable if I ever achieve what I aim to achieve with these little music videos, but I have a lot of fun trying, and every mistake teaches me what I need to improve on. I was really unimpressed with my lead vocals on this song while I was doing it, but I think I was just having a bad mental health day. I don't know. But I have a lot of fun singing the ghostly descounts. I'm just not enjoying my mid-range vocals these days, so I'm pretty sure it's just a thing of me being sick of myself, honestly, which is something I've accepted in making these videos, and I try to give myself grace. My main goal is to tell these creepy stories, and at the end of the day, if you hear the story in a generally entertaining way, I've done my job. The topic of incest is something that crops up in folk music here and there, but it's by no means a regular subject matter. The instances when it is the topic of a song is always quite dramatic and filled with awful outcomes. I'm not sure you get something that is a darker example of love gone awry than an incest story that results in murder and suicide, unless you do what I did and also add a ghost. All right, back to our host.
Okay, you're back. Yeah, Lizy 1 is a lot. There's a lot going on in that song. Content warning, very important on that one. Okay, so one more little pie tip I'm going to give you also, since you're watching it all on screen. I don't want to miss anything I've learned over the years. I've been making this pie. Oops, sorry, microphone. I've been making this pie for, since I was 19. And that was the first time I did a Thanksgiving all by myself when I was 19. And over the years, I'm 51 now. So over the years, and there's been a lot of years, obviously, I think I have perfected the balance of the spices. It's a very silky pie without being too soft. It's a fabulous pie. So a little tip I'm going to give you is if you have trouble dumping and scraping the pie filling into the crust, just get a ladle. Just get a ladle and ladle the pie filling into the crust. In fact, I always recommend putting pies on like a pizza pan or a cookie sheet, because that way if there's any bubbling over, you don't have to worry about your oven getting disgusting. And it's also easier to take a pie out without cracking your crust or something if they're on a tray. So go ahead and get that pie onto the pan that you're going to put in the oven with, and you're going to set it into the oven on the actual oven tray, and you can put the pie filling in with the ladle right there in the oven, at the oven tray. Pop it in the oven, shut the door. It just makes it a little bit easier if you have trouble lifting and pouring a bowl or anything of that nature. So yeah, ladle in your pie filling. It makes sure, oh my goodness, I have a husky, so there's always a little bit of white husky hair floating around. Anyways, so that is a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 8th pie tip. I don't know. Let's move on. So the 3rd video of the month was the Grizzly Bride, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to send you back over to voiceover Myra, and she can tell you all about the Grizzly Bride.
Okay, so I love this song. This one was actually going to be on the slate for last year because it features female agency in a really fun way. But the creature, I was really torn, and I wound up going with a different creature feature last year, which was the Three Ravens. So anyways, I really love this song, but I'm about to shit talk myself so hard. This one hurt my feelings, keeping it real. Anyways, I knew I'd do a version of this since last year. But when the time came, I kind of moved it. My real life is lifing and a bit hectic, and I just don't have a whole lot of time. And, I don't post videos a lot, so doing 4 or 5 every October is always going to be a challenge for me. But I'm going to keep doing it. But it does present me with issues when I mess up. So I screw the pooch a little on each portion of the recording process here. And pretty soon I realized the whole thing was going pear-shaped, but I didn't have time in my schedule to redo the whole thing. So I found myself trying to make it work, which, it became a dogfight, if you will. So anyway, I finally just called it done is good enough on the music side. It's got some foibles, and started reviewing the footage from a couple weeks ago and almost fell over laughing in my chair. My daughter and I just running around in a yard, my son trying and failing to make the dog take direction. It's pretty flipping great.
So what I want you to do is let your arms flow behind you, I guess.
Okay.
And then we'll try it again with your arms forward, right? Like,
You want me to run like Tina?
holding it. Yeah, do that. Just for this shot, though.
You want me to run in slow motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
like you're about to change shape.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
I don't fucking know.
Okay, here's what I want you to do specifically. I'm going to be more specific.
Okay.
Because I got to show you that in a minute. So, you're about to become like a Wendigo or something?
Sure.
So I need you to a little bit less of this.
I can't. How? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna need you to just,
Okay.
give me a
Arms.
give me
Long
a
strides.
yeah. I don't know.
Can I just run Yeah,
Run?
just run.
Okay.
It's fine.
And this
I think.
go slower.
Yeah.
The fumes off that thing.
Yeah.
Serious.
Okay.
Don't make me laugh.
3. Hold on.
Let me wrap up my hair a little bit.
I think I just got a mosquito bite.
No.
3, 2, 1. Okay, arms down. Women didn't jog back then.
What am I supposed
She
to
would
do?
have been like that.
She would have.
She would have had loose arms.
I
Just
did
loose
that.
it. No, you went
No,
like that.
I didn't.
I have it on camera. Okay, let's do it again. Do it again.
Okay. I didn't expect this to be.
You're aiming for the jugular of a deer. Think like that.
Oh my
Yeah, you're Edward in the opening of Twilight.
God. You could outrun me.
As if you could outrun me. Okay, wait. Siku, no. Jaxie, hold on to her.
Siku, come here.
Give her a piece so that she can lure him. Okay, good.
Oh, I caught it. Wow. Siku. I have it, Siku. Siku. I have it, Siku. I'm gonna walk him over to you. Come here, baby.
Now tear it into pieces so that you have a couple pieces to give him.
Right there.
Okay. Good. Now, Dallas, walk over by that tree. Walk past to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. Okay, good. All right. All right. Now, Jaxie, toss your last piece in front of the,
Have any more pieces?
okay, Dallas, toss a piece over by the nightgown. Okay, and then toss a piece in front of you so that he aims for you.
Already going. Good boy.
Another piece. Okay, let's do the same thing.
So my attitude changed a little bit about the song because I was so down on myself because I just kept messing with it. That after I saw all the footage and realized how silly and fun this video was going to be, I decided to tinker with it just a little bit more, and I just tried my best to make it as easy to listen to as possible. Listen, you can't win them all, especially when you're short on time. But I'm never not going to laugh about this one. I think the idea is there. And I wanted it to be something other than a folk dirge because the story's pretty good Halloween season fun. What with, the were-dingoes and all. So regardless of whether or not the music end of this is perfect, I think I get across the idea of what I would do if I was recording this professionally. I think it would just be a really fun song. And the video footage just makes me giggle. I'll be watching that for years to come. In terms of this month's theme, there aren't many ghosts in this video, obviously. But there are werewolves. And there is love gone awry in the form of a mismatched marriage between a trapper and a young lady. And I mean, I don't think that it was a love match, but marriage evokes the idea of love, and there's no provocation here. This goes completely awry, especially for the trapper. So it's much less consummation and wedded bliss and much more consuming of a trapper in the raw. And because it is a holdover from last year's female agency theme, we'll just have to assume that the ghosts are implied. All those dead trappers in the woods are definitely haunting the local outpost, right? I love the idea. The idea of were-dingoes in the hills, avoiding traps and running wild and trapping trappers being just generally ungovernable. In real life, dingoes and wild dogs were constantly clashing with humans, especially in Western Australia, and it was kind of open season on them at the time that this poem was written in 1946. Later, the poem was put to a tune in the 70s by a man named Tom Campbell. But I do wish I'd been a fly on the wall when the man who wrote the original poem saw authorities calling for dingo blood and decided to write a poem about a young woman who opted out of the marriage bed and ate her husband. Like, in 1946, I wouldn't expect a werewolf poem to begin with. But even better, a she-were who entraps and lures her prey to the woods and turns the tables on him. It's love gone awry. It's love gone awry and completely run amok. All right, back to our host.
Okay. Welcome back again. So now there's really not much else to tell you in terms of pie tips, but I will tell you that there's a lot of controversy about how to know if a pie is done. And a lot of people will stick a straw or a knife or a fork in to see if it's done. I don't do that. In fact, I don't do that with meat either. I have my own ways of figuring out when things are done without cutting into them and potentially getting rid of moisture or letting out steam too quickly or anything like that. So with this pumpkin pie, what I have learned over all my years of making it is what you want to do is when you go to check the pie, you're going to move the dish just a little bit and you're going to watch the surface of the pie. And it's going to jiggle a little bit, but it's not going to be liquid. No portion of it will be liquid. I know a lot of recipes say have 2 to 4 inches of liquid in the middle. Don't do that. You want the whole surface to kind of jiggle, but not be liquid. You want it to be gelled, right? And then what you're going to do, now that you know the pie is done cooking, is you're going to turn your oven off and you're going to leave the pie in the oven. You're not going to move it. You're going to prop open your oven door. You're going to let it sit there for like 20 minutes. And then you can take it out and put it on top of the oven on a cold burner and just let that residual heat from the oven as it cools off slowly, seep out. And it allows the pie to cool down a little slower. And then when it's been about an hour on top of your oven, move it to a safe, protected space on a countertop. And you're just going to let it come completely to room temperature, 100% room temperature, no heat left. Then you put it in the fridge. And the reason we do this is it prevents cracking on the surface and it allows the pie to gel thoroughly and continue to cook the rest of the way as it cools. If you put it right in the oven, you're not going to get that final bit of gelling that you will get if you do this slow cool method. Once it's in the fridge, you're going to be tempted to cut into it in an hour. Don't do that. Don't do that. You need a minimum of 4 hours chilling. In fact, I usually just put it in the fridge overnight and then we have it the next day. And trust me when I say it's 100% worth it. Perfect. Perfectly gelled, not too soft, not too firm. Custard pie. Okay. All right. So that's it for the pumpkin pie. Let's move on to the 4th video of this month. In fact, I'm still making this one, so I don't even know how it's going to turn out yet. The 4th video of the month is the Unquiet Grave. And it is a ghostly love story. It's actually quite sweet, the sentiment behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and allow you to get back over to VoiceOverMyra. And I'm sure you can hear my little dogs in the hallway out there. I've got a 100-pound husky and a 20-pound wire-haired Dachshund. So they're out there tip-tapping around. Sorry. So yeah. Let's take it back over to VoiceOverMyra, and she's going to tell you all about the Unquiet Grave.
Okay, so last song, I just realized I forgot to write anything down for this one. So the Unquiet Grave has a long and storied history in folk music, in folklore, but I actually would argue that this is much more of a love song and a song about grief than horror, even though there's a ghost. There is a ghost. In fact, the whole thing is about a ghost. So this song was the first song on my list for this year. And everything else kind of went from there. I know last year my main goal was to try to make this year about ghosts. I really wanted to do ghost stories. But I'd only had kind of a loose idea what form that would take. And this song was top of the list. I knew the song would be in the lineup. So the idea of the song is essentially there is a man, woman, a lover, previous spouse, who is laying by the graveside of a loved one and, mourning and can't stop mourning the loved one, can't stop missing the loved one, can't stop wishing for one last kiss. And what essentially happens is kind of just sweet and cute. The ghost of the departed loved one, in this case, we'll call it a wife, she comes back and she kind of wakes up and she says, "Who's disturbing my sleep? Why can't I sleep for all the moaning and groaning up here?" And it's the husband, and the husband or spouse says, all I'm doing is waiting for one last kiss from you. And she essentially discourages him from laying by her graveside and crying his life away and tells him to go live his life. So obviously there's a lot to appeal to me in this one for Folk Horror Month. There's a ghost, there's graveyards, sorrow. But I think the key reason I'm drawn to this song is, it's kind of a perpetual theme. This idea in folk music especially, this idea of never getting over a departed loved one. Or the death of a lover, meaning the death of the other lover. Just from sheer heartbreak. This is a very romantic ideal that we see in folk music for, centuries. So what I love about this song is that it's basically saying, no, don't die because you're heartbroken. Live your life. You'll see me eventually. And that's kind of the upshot of it is, live your life until you die. Don't die while you're living, right? So, and certainly don't hurry your death along. So live your life, and eventually when you die, we'll be reunited. So the sentiment behind this one is incredibly sweet. It's a release as opposed to many of these stories where the departed will drag the living back down into the grave with them. So I think, also, I'm a death doula in real life. So I spend time with people dying, and I spend time in dying spaces. And there's a lot of discussion to be had about the nature of grief. And so, of course, that's another reason this song appeals to me. I think one of the things that we tend to do as a society is tell people to hurry up, grieve, get over it, move on. And this song, on the face of it, seems like maybe that's what it's saying, but I really don't. I think there's more to it than that. I think that this song, what's happening is a release from beyond the grave, right? And it allows the husband or the spouse, the lover left behind, to let go. And letting go is such an incredible concept, and it's so difficult for humans to do. We hang on to a lot of things. We like to pretend like we don't, but we hang on to things, and when we don't acknowledge that we're hanging on to them, it comes out in all kinds of unhealthy ways. So when we're talking about grief, I think that it's such a pivotal thing, the letting go. And it's not that you're forgetting, you're always going to have grief for a departed loved one. Grief is love that it's like when you bake a pumpkin pie and that beautiful smell is in your house for hours afterwards. You know, something that you love, it hangs on to you. But it can take the form of a companion and something beautiful that's remembered and somebody you talk to in your quiet hours. It doesn't have to take your life as well. So I love the message of this song, this idea that the departed wife, really would prefer that her spouse move on and live their full life before they die in the future of some natural, hopefully some natural cause, and then be reunited. So I love this idea. But also number 2, she really just wants to get some sleep, which I think almost every spousal unit can relate to. So, yeah. Anyways, so Unquiet Grave, yeah. So we started the month out with a really sweet one, right? With Long Black Veil. But that has a bit of a sourness to it because it's a secret that created such grief and strife. But the tune is very sweet. And then we moved on to a story of incest. I don't know if I made it really clear when I was talking about Lizzie Wan, but it is an incest story. And there's a name in the thing, in the lyrics. When she tells her brother that she's pregnant, she says it's between her Billy and her. But Billy isn't a name, it's a word. Billy is an old archaic Scottish word that basically means brother. So she's telling her brother that he has impregnated her. That's why he cuts her head off. That's why he dismembers her. And that's why he is haunted by her and runs to his demise. And then we moved on to the creature feature, where we have a young wife who is anything but. Turns out she's 100% not a victim, and the tables are turned in that instance. But in all 3 of those, there's some sort of violence. In Unquiet Grave, it's a peaceful denouement. So it's something that I love, this message and this song, and I hope you do too. All right, I'm going to throw it back one last time to our host.
Well, I'll just set that aside. So you see that crust? It's really good. The only thing left to do now is tell you thank you for joining me. I'm so glad you came and watched this video. I really just do these videos for me. Obviously, nobody knows about this YouTube channel. So if you're here seeing this video, you're one of the rarest humans on the planet. I really, really just do this for me. It's where I am learning how to record music, make little videos to kind of keep it entertaining as I fumble my way through the recording process and try to capture what's up here into a digital recording, essentially, you know, playing the instruments. And I don't really have digital instruments. I have, they're all regular instruments, and I'm just learning how to make them sound their best. But also, like, just in general, it's a whole process, and I really enjoy it, but I am in no way good at it yet. So if you came and you watched it, I appreciate you coming and watching it. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll like and subscribe, smash that button, come back, come see us again. And remember that next Thursday, Halloween 2024, there's going to be the final music video, The Unquiet Grave, the evening of Halloween. So hopefully sunset is what I'm aiming for. And the only thing left to do is say thank you. And I will see you again, I hope. Stay creepy, get weird, have a great Halloween, make some pumpkin pie, and I'll see you again. Okay, bye.